Yeah, man, sup up purples? Welcome to the black hole. My name is Bless Beats. I thought I was gonna catch some sun time, but apparently, it is time to sit down and have some enjoyment time at the machine once again because we're getting an update right about around fun now. Both the software update and a firmware update, system update for the Machine Plus. What's actually new on the schedule here? Are we getting what we've been yelling about for years? We're getting a soft synth. Well, hello, news there. We've already sorted that for you. There's the mini school, you know what I'm saying? But it's pretty cool. We're getting actually the, what's it called? Pro 53 synthesizer. I always loved that one. And supposedly, it has been built with Machine Plus and hardware control in mind. Let's see if they did it as ingeniously as Mr. Cashman and me did. I seriously doubt that, you know what I'm saying? All parameters are available from hardware, though the software interface is simpler, of course. Like I mentioned before, because of the way the Machine Plus is architectured, we're probably not going to see any graphical user interfaces at all. Like, it's not as simple as making it and putting it there. So if you're hoping for that, I'm sorry, but no. We already have the massive, but you can't really control everything on that. But yeah, we're going to check out the polysynth in a sec. Midi changes. This is pretty radical for the gear freaks who have multiple pieces of gear in their setup. You can actually use another device to trigger scene, section, snapshot changes from an external MIDI device. I will not be using that. Arpeggiator improvements. Retrigger, repeat, offset, inversion, and range. Some minor improvements to the arpeggiator, now on par with complete control. So what's new in the software? Multi-selection of clips. That's good that they added that. I kind of took that for granted when the clips came out from the beginning, so I'm glad they fixed that. VST3 version of Contact can now be used in Machine. That's just good. For the people who haven't broken loose from the spell of Apple yet, there's Apple Silicon support now. So you can actually use the Machine software. Saving presets from Mark III controllers is now possible. PC Police swung around. Browser tag urban has been changed to hip hop. I get the critique against it, but it wasn't the whole thing about it that, you know, it was an umbrella term for hip hop or any black music, essentially. They're just doing what they got to do to stay in the clear. New for Machine Plus, save plugin presets. That's great. Product licenses are checked on launch. Fixes. What to expect next? This is interesting. What you got for us, Kai? The rest of the year will be primarily on maintenance and compatibility updates, with features occasionally sprinkled in when opportunities arise. I get that from the developer's standpoint. I work part-time for a company called Soundation. And I do see the development process from the inside, so I understand the priority issues there. Whilst the exact development and release cadence has not been finalized, we're looking at additional VST3 hosting, NI, NKS, and 3P, a VST3 plugin target for Machine, and continuing to add support for Apple Silicon computers and Mac OS Monterey. It's kind of like getting socks for Christmas, if you feel me. But it's necessary when you have a product like this. This is a constant ongoing work. Fixes, fix this, fix that. Finally, we'd like to share a brief reminder that at all times we're simultaneously made and release product, but also investing in our tech stack and some future generation of products. Whilst not in specific, being exciting updates in the not too distant future. We're going to see another Machine. Perchance, a Machine Plus done right. A few people out there are probably happy right now. If this is stuff that you wanted. I've been sort of happy all the while. I just think that they're listening to the peoples of the world and what they requested for years. This is not my impression of what's being requested. We've had that discussion a lot of times. Let's check out the new synth. Polysynth. So you actually, if you notice what I did there, if you want to load it up raw just like that, you have to hold shift and press browser and you will find it in there. Yep, so let me check out the layout here and see if it was as ingeniously designed as the modified version of Massive called Mini School, which you can get on my website, by the way, done by Ian Cashman. Distributed and presets worked by Mr. Me and him. So, it starts off with a filter. Why? What's the next menu? Filter envelope, amp envelope, mix, voices, oscillator A, shapes, Oscillator B, shapes, LFO, shapes, modulation. I mean, sure, this is better than the massive layout, but everything is ass backwards to me. Like, I don't know how you program synths, but if the point is to encourage people to design sounds from scratch, why would you put oscillator A on page 4 and oscillator B on page 5? And the filter first. Filter, that's like the third or fourth piece in the chain. That's not what, like you begin with an open filter and then eventually you get to the filter. That's not intuitive process, I have to say. I already know the Pro 53. I used that a ton in my days as a VST, so I can certainly vouch for that. It's a great virtual analog synth. But let me show you instead a good example of what an intuitive synth layout would be. Already squeezed in on the very first page, like a Moog or a Poly 6 or anything. The first thing you see here, two oscillators are already on the half of the first page. And then we have the sub oscillator there. So everything, the signal flow is very logical. Then you get into the filters, and then you get into the amp envelopes, and then you get into all the other extras like the vibrato, glide, pitch modulation, pulse width modulation, filter modulation, chorus, reverb, EQ, you name it. You see, the signal flow is a logical one, but that's just the way that I prefer it. Maybe people start by programming the filter, and I can also see that you might think like, okay, so the first knob that you would reach for is the filter cutoff, because that's like, you know, the performing DJ on the stage pulling the cutoff on the filter. But yeah, that's nice, but it must have taken some time and energy to make this happen. So like I said, I'm already happy with the way it is, just as long as it's not bugging out and crashing and shit. I think the Maschine is already a full-fledged power horse if you take it for what it is. It's not a fucking DAW, all right? Don't expect a DAW. Again and again, I've said it. It's not a DAW. It's a groove box and a very powerful sampler. It's the MPC of the 2020s. But if you are going to add stuff that's not bug fixes and shit, just tell people to get to mini school and implement what they requested. Like, for example, tempo changes, better automation. How can I see the automation that I've recorded on my screen? Because I can't even do that in standalone mode right now. How can I select only these notes and then decide to not include that one without starting to select a whole bunch of other notes? Like things like this, minor workflow issues. So yeah, I'm not super excited about this update, to be honest, but my sympathy is still with you. I know what it can look like on a dev team, you know what I'm saying? It's a tricky thing. Even figuring out how to prioritize. I mean, a team of 3 people is big enough to cause a shit show. For today, I will resume my plans of going out into the sun. Okay, bye-bye.